Welcome to episode 14, everybody. Hope everybody had a great Christmas. Hope everybody's holiday was good, and we'll slowly getting back into the grind here. So, what are you looking at? You're looking at something that happens every time I work on a radio. I end up ripping it all out and redoing it. And this is going to be no exception. So I actually did end up rewiring this entire thing and still got zero out of the audio section. Zero. I mean, not even a crackle or a noise. But there is hope. This socket right here, I think, is the cause of my problems. So really, if you think about the way this radio works, after your AC comes in, it gets rectified, and it goes through this 2.4K resistor, and then there's all of the filaments are strung together. There's actually two things that were wrong here. So the first thing is I have a bad tube socket. That I know for sure. And it looks like solder may have flowed underneath the phenolic section here, and it's shorting out two pins together. So that's always a bad thing. That's always a really bad thing. But there was also another problem on this thing that I think was also causing me a huge issue. And if you remember, I told you between the 3V4 tube and the it's this one right here, which is the 1U4 tube, there was an inductor going between pin 7 and pin 7. I'm sorry, pin 1 and pin 7. And all that was really there for was it's a 16.2 microhenry inductor, 2.2 volts, 2.2 ohms maximum DC resistance. All it really was doing is keeping AC off the filament line. Okay, well, that was open. So that inductor was wide open, and I had that thing wired in the circuit. And if you recall, I didn't really mess with it when I was redoing this because I assumed that it was good. And strangely, when it was in circuit, when I ohmed it out, it showed that it was good. For obvious reasons, because there's other components that are tied in there. So I removed it from circuit, dead as a doornail, nothing. So my filament lines were never really working because everything is tied together here. So between a bad tube socket and between that bad inductor, I now know what my issue is. Now the problem is to get that inductor, you got to rip everything out, and also to get these sockets out, you pretty much have to rip it out. So why not? The wire is solid wire anyway. And likely it could be breaking or will break, so it's really not much to this radio. So I'm just going to redo it. So that's going to be the plan. While I have all this stuff cleaned out here, I'm going to remove this and put it somewhere else and be a little more organized this time. I have checked out these coils, this one here and this one here, and they're good, so I don't have any worry there. I've also checked out the coils here and the coils here, so those coils are good too. So I know the coils are good. So that's always the battle with the radio. Are the coils good? So I know that for a fact. So it's my hope that when I put in the new tube sockets here, which I'm going to use the same kind, but we'll see. And then I'll be able to, what I'm going to do first is, just like when I'm building a guitar amplifier, I'm going to wire the filaments first and test it before I connect anything to them. I'm just going to connect the filaments and see what happens. So I'm going to leave everything disconnected from where it is. And I'll know if my filament voltages are good. And then from there, I can build the rest of the radio. So that's going to be the plan. Unfortunately, I have a few days to wait for the new tube sockets to come in. I decided to replace both of these. One had a weak pin that was just about to snap from me playing with this thing. So I'm going to replace these two. These two are going to be just fine. I did find a couple issues here. Someone rammed a capacitor in here and it was shorting out. But anyway, that's the story with this thing. So while I'm waiting for the parts to come in, we're going to go back to our Hallicrafters S-20R, and we're going to start recapping that and get that going. So let me take this off the bench, put it away for safekeeping, and when we get the parts, we're going to come back to this one and start building it. I'll be back. Okay, so we have our our other radio on the bench here, and we're going to start the process of replacing all these wax caps. That's going to be the plan. Slow and steady, no rush. And if you recall, I'm also going to be correcting this this connection, which goes to the BNC connector for the antenna. And likely I'll be replacing a lot of these resistors, which are really old. But I'm going to check everything while I'm under here, clean it up a little bit, and we're going to start that process. There's really not a lot to do here. There's a couple of capacitors that are hidden under here. Here's one here, and there's one buried underneath here, but not too bad. And we're going to start that process. And I have all of the new switches that I showed you wired in, so that's already done. So that's all complete. And we're going to start the process. Okay? You guys know how to solder and replace components, so I don't need to show you that. So I'm going to just forge ahead, and I'll come back when there's an update. I expect to have a lot more real estate under here, by the way, of course, right? With these smaller components replacing these larger ones. I shall be back. For those of you that are going to be working on one of those, I want to point out that there is a wax cap hidden down in here. And I'm going to need to figure out how I get into that one, but I want to make sure I cover that as well. So there's one old wax paper cap down here. And I think that's the only one that's really buried in a spot that's going to make it a little bit of a pain in the ass, but that's okay. Just wanted to make sure I pointed that out. Be back. Probably worthwhile showing this one too. This is a resistor that's coming off of the filter cap, the can on top. And this, you can see this thing looks like it's been smoking in the boys' room a little bit here. So there's been a lot of heat on this thing at some point. It looks like it's pretty well toasty. So we're going to be actually changing that one, of course. All right, be back. As I'm replacing the first cap here, which is a .02, I have to show off my pigtails here. Because one of you showed me how to do this really well. So I have to show you how it came out. All right, let's move forward. Just to give you an update, we're doing good here. I do have one cap here that's a .01 1000 volts, so I don't have that. I had to order it. This is another one of those. So there's a 1000 volt one there too. So these two we'll do separately once I get them in, obviously. And then, you know, you could see that I'm starting to make some progress around here and doing well. And I've replaced this electrolytic cap here, kind of buried, and I'm working in this section. So now I'm going to try to understand what this is. I'm not sure if that's a cap or not. I got to look at that and start to figure out what's going on with these resistors here. So that's the plan. I also have one buried under here, which I haven't gotten to yet. I'm probably going to tackle that one next, and then I'll do this one here, and try to get this one that's buried down here. So we'll try to knock all those out, and then we're going to start testing these resistors because they all look pretty old. So I may end up having to change all the resistors as well, but we'll play that by ear and see how that plays out. So that's kind of where we are. I'll be back. Okay, just coming back with a little update. So starting to work on some of these resistors. This is a 10K 4-watt resistor that was on top of that filter cap, which I showed you right here. So that's been taken out. It tested about 15K, so way out of tolerance. And these are some of the grid stoppers resistors that were on top of these tubes, and we've replaced those. And we're working our way through here. You'll see here in the place of this this little monster right here, we got a nice little 5-watt 10K resistor there, and we're working our way out. So next we're going to go through this section. This is the voltage divider section, I believe, and we're going to go through this and see what's going on here. I'm definitely changing this and this, obviously. And then I'm going to start working my way through some of these resistors here and see what kind of shape they're in. They all seem to be out of tolerance. So if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right, and I'm going to do it once. And if I need to change all these out, I will. There's different types of resistors in this thing. So there's 2-watt, which is here. That's what I replaced here. And that was a dog bone that I took out of there. It's around here somewhere. Anyway, I'll show you that later if I can find it. And so that was a dog bone, and then this here was the voltage divider. So anyway, this is a 2-watt, this is a 5-watt, and then these other ones that I'm putting in are just simply 1 watt, and that's what the drawing calls for. And this is the dog bone that I took out right here. Okay. So and that dog bone is 470K, by the way. So that's where we are. We're going to continue working through here, and I still see some that are looking pretty ratty. Like there's one here that let me see if I could zoom in just a little bit for you and move this up just a slight bit. right there. You can see right here this thing is looking real ratty. And I'm sure it's out of tolerance, and I'm sure this one is too. So we're just going to continue. All right, using the coil method for all this stuff. I'm not disturbing anything on the sockets. Don't want to. And we are going to continue plowing through this. So I shall be back. Okay, we're making some progress here. I'm about to work on the electrolytic cap can, and I was going to mount the caps underneath. And then I was going to buy a new can. I said, that's no fun. Let's restuff. I've never done a restuff before. So I cut the can open like you're supposed to, and I screwed up all the connections on the bottom. But never fear, there's always a way. So let me show you what I'm going to do here. This is the ground tab, and I've pushed out all the pins. The pins were just shot. So I've taken a sacrificial terminal strip, like so, and I've punched out the center, the ground lug, the long one. Basically what I'm going to do, I'll get my plier. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten this out, like so. And I'm going to straighten out this leg, like that. And I'm going to mount it, like so. Alright, now I have to cut a couple of slots in here, but basically you'll see I have one right in here. And I'm going to take that one out so you can see it, because it's still loose. Okay, so this is what you end up with, okay? And you'll see I cut a little bit of a slot in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this down around there, and you'll see on the bottom it sticks out perfectly so I can solder to it. And I'm going to use some JB Weld. Once I get all three of them in there, I'm going to put a layer of JB Weld in the bottom and hold all that crap in place. And then I'll have my connections to connect the caps. So that's what you do if you screw up like me. So I'm going to continue building this, and we'll see what it looks like when I get it all fixed up in there, and we'll see if it's actually going to work. We'll see. Thanks. Okay, just one more shot of this before I fill it in. I was going to use hot glue, and then I thought better about it because I said when I go to solder the connections on the bottom, that glue is going to melt and these things are going to be flopping around. So we're going to use the high temperature JB Weld, and I've got my 3 connections in there. There they are sticking out of the bottom, and I'll make sure I clean all that up. And this is going to be what I go with on the bottom. Okay, and I've got my I've got a 33 microfarad 500 volt. It calls for a 30. I have a 10 500. It calls for a 10, and I've got another 10 500 here, and it calls for a 10. They're actually looking for 425, but that's good. The other thing I was going to do is I was going to use this. This is an electrolytic that actually comes in an 8-pin tube socket format. But I'm also going to save this for another project. I don't want to use it on this. So that's the plan. So I need to go to Home Depot, get some JB Weld. We're going to fill this crap in all nice in there, get that nice and tight in there. And I think we're going to be in good shape here with this electrolytic. Just as long as these things don't flop around, I'll be in good shape. I'm probably going to upload this video now because I don't like my videos to be too long. So tomorrow we'll be working on this. We'll be stuffing the can. We'll be finishing up some of these resistors that I still haven't gotten to, and all that stuff. But we're close electronically to test this thing. I just have to wait for that that 1000 volt 0.01. And I did order ceramic. I don't know if I told you that previously, but I ordered a ceramic cap, so that'll go right here, and there's one more right here. So I think that's going to be it for today. I'm going to upload this now, and of course, don't forget about the other radio, the 5R41. I haven't. I'm plotting my attack on that one. Again, I'm going to use the logic that I do when I build an amp, and I'm going to connect all the filaments first, light it up and test them, and then go from there. Alright folks, that's going to be it for this video. We shall see you guys around soon.